Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Prince Adu-Appiah here, and I'm super excited you're joining this episode. Today, we're heading to South Africa. Our guest met Nelson Mandela at a very early age, an encounter that changed his life. Tshepo Seloane is a dynamic Africa changer. He has spent the last 10 years of his life advocating for access justice through a street law-based initiative called Tsosang Molao, which means Awaken the Law. A passion he followed as a law student right through into the attorney's profession. Tshepo lends his voice as a legal contributor on South Africa's radio, namely Power FM and SA-FM, and through his online vlog, the Mbewu Soapbox. He is the Executive Director of Mbewu, a youth-led social organization which aims to inspire the youth to become active agents of change in their communities through business, education, and social activism. I trust our conversation with Tshepo today will be a blessing and a very inspiring one. If you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe. This is your big leadership lesson. Hello everyone, guys. I am super excited today. I am super excited. I have a dude I'm speaking with right now. This guy met Nelson Mandela. Let it sink in, guys. Let it sink in first. This guy met Nelson Mandela, I think in the year 2006. He's going to tell us more about that later on. But my guest, Tshepo Seloane here, I'm super excited, bro, to have you on this podcast.
Friends, thank you so much for having me. It's been a very long time since you and I are connected, and I'm really honored to participate today.
Awesome. I think last time, the first time actually we met, 2016, somewhere in Pretoria, I had taken a trip, for a summit. And after the summit, I just extended my stay to meet people, just to listen. My theme for that stay was listen. And man, I met you somewhere in Pretoria, and you spoke so much wisdom. I mean, I learned so much, and I believe we had a great conversation. And thanks for that again.
I remember that moment quite clearly. We met in Sunnyside at the Nando's. We met at the Nando's in Sunny Park in Sunnyside.
Okay, I have forgotten the name. Of course, I'm not familiar. Yes, I'm not familiar with that. But tell us. In the year 2013, bro, I looking back, I think I can refer to that as one of the craziest years for me, because one of the things I decided to do was to make friends from across the world, especially in Africa. And so I chanced on your video. You posted it 12 September 2013. It was 7 minutes, 55 seconds long. And this was a video where you were speaking. I think you submitted it as part of a competition or something like that. It was a profile about you where you were speaking about how you met Nelson Mandela, your passion. That video got me inspired, because around the same time, I had that passion. And that was when I started 1 Billion Africa. And so it was super inspiring hearing from someone my age or around my age from across, the other side of Africa, Southern Africa, sharing his passion so vividly. And I was super inspired. And so please tell us, when you met the old man, how was it?
I was 14 years old, and we were invited to. So I was actually how I got to meet Nelson Mandela. I was very close to one of his assistants, who I went to church with. I didn't know he worked for Nelson Mandela. His name was Stephen. And on this one particular day, they needed young young people who could debate. And I think at that time I was still doing debates in school. So I went with him to go type up some of his minutes. So we drive into the front of this house, and I'm seeing Nelson Mandela, but it's not clicking it. So we go in, and I start typing up things in the back. We then get ushered into a room, and there are hundreds of security guards, some ministerial individuals, and we're told 2 hours in advance that is coming. And we are being prepared, so we get searched all over. Our possessions are searched, and I kid you not, I've had an interview and a half with this, but the feeling to this day still feels out of body. I've never been in a room before where the mere mention of someone's name can command absolute pristine silence. As he was being ushered in and the security guards were coming in, absolute silence. From the youngest kid to the oldest person in the room, absolute silence. And he walked in with Mama Grasha, blazing smile. The room fell absolutely silent. Now, this isn't a big caucus room. The room felt absolutely silent. That was my first time meeting Tata Nelson Mandela. This is before he offers me a job. He was also the first person in my life to give me a job. I would then,
Wow.
I would then, have many more consultations with Tata, meet with him a few more times. But the nostalgia of that first moment of seeing this man, larger than life character, and all he wanted was to see the little kids. And he greeted everyone in the room, ever smiling. That was my first feeling, my first moment with the great man. I think the first of many.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you asked him a question and he responded. Tell us about that before we start our podcast officially.
You're putting me on the spot. What was the
No. Yes, I mean, I watched your video just before this interview. So you mentioned in there, you asked the old man, how do we do it?
Sheesh.
Yes, you asked him, how do we do it? How do we become like you? And then in the video, you were like, he told you, I'm an old man. I've played my role in this world. Now it is left up to you. Now it is in your hands.
Yo, I just got goosebumps, dude.
Yeah.
That statement became the mantra of the Nelson Mandela Center for Memory. I may not be a patron of the Nelson Mandela Center for Memory, but that line became the 4664 line when all these international stars came to South Africa to raise funds for HIV and AIDS. That became the mantra for the Center for Memory again, as they were inviting, for example, President Barack Obama. That is in your hands. The reason I'm getting goosebumps with that first moment and just the recollection of that was I became one of the young people who were invited to Houghton to the Nelson Mandela Foundation at that time, when the foundation was transitioning from the Nelson Mandela Foundation to the Center for Memory. Tata was very concerned that people would not be able to disassociate his work from his brand, his identity. And because he was very steadfast in saying, I want to leave a legacy. If the Nelson Mandela Foundation has based itself on my face, I will not be able to leave a credible legacy that will be disassociated from me. And so I remember we were in one of the basement rooms there, and we were going through a number of items, like what could we use, or what could the foundation use as a symbolism for Nelson Mandela's legacy. And I remember at a point, I may not have been one of the people high up who made the final decision, but we were called in as young people to share our thoughts. And one of the items that were there was the hand. And literally, it's a hand of that. It's an old wrinkled hand of Nelson Mandela's. And the discussions that were being had in that room. I mean, we are young people, pioneers, people who are unemployed, but people with dreams. And in a caucus like that, but you're not just the creme de la creme. Let me put it like that. We're not an elitist society or elitist group of people who are only movers and shakers, but it was people from all walks of life in there to give their feedback, their input into what they believe Nelson Mandela meant, what they believe Nelson Mandela represents in their lives. And when it came to the consensus of using his hand, that line, now it's in your hand. It's in your hand. That poignant moment, I just get goosebumps just thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed, it's in all our hands. The African youth somewhere in Bosaso, Somalia, or Serekunda, the Gambia, the African youth somewhere in Algiers, Algeria, to Pretoria, somewhere in South Africa, across the continent, it is in our hands. And I see it as it is that hand that we need to use to lay our bricks one on top of each other to help build the walls of our continent. I mean, I love you for that, bro. I love you for that. And I'm really excited about this. So let's not get carried away. Great. So our audience will love to hear about your leadership story. I mean, 14 years old, you met Nelson Mandela. I don't know where it began for you. So tell us all about it, your leadership story and journey.
I have a very, I think we all think we're interesting. I started on business at the age of 10. I was selling, I don't know if you have it up in your home country. There is a fermented concoction of mangoes that we call achar here. It's used as a condiment to certain foods, or if you eat chips, you can add this condiment to your food. Sometimes it's spicy and tangy. And I used to sell that in order to get some money. I don't come from an incredibly wealthy family. And so I, at the age of 10, started selling these condiments. I also had my first business card that I made then at the age of 11, where I took just a normal piece of paper, started drawing blocks, and my first business card that I had my mom's number on it. So that's how my journey began, to be quite honest with you, in business. However, the leadership trajectory of my life kick-started at that moment where I met Nelson Mandela. I may have mentioned that he was the first person to employ me. And because I then was working for Dada, and because I was in his circle, I became catapulted into the public space very, very early on in my life. And so my leadership journey took a very public space and a very public identity from a time when I probably wasn't even ready to have a leadership role scrutinized so publicly. From there, I made a declaration at the age of 16, having worked with this man who is larger than life. But he's very normal. He's not a saint. He is very critical. I think one thing that people don't understand about Nelson Mandela, not only was he a lawyer, he was a fighter. He's a very critical man, speaks what he means, doesn't mince his words, but had a caring element to him because he was speaking to, I think because I had met him at the last chapter in his life. He wasn't about the glitz and the glamour anymore. He was a granddad. He was a granddad, a great granddad. He was intentional in his directness, intentional in his direction, because he knew he was laying the foundation for a generation that would outlive him. And I made a declaration at the age of 16 that I would become an Africa changer. At that time, I didn't know what being an Africa changer meant, but we were in a room, all walks of life, different accents, how we are speaking. And I made a commitment to the advancement of the idea of an Africa that was improved, an Africa that was emancipated, an Africa that was strong and powerful. I didn't know in what capacity, I didn't know what the direction would have been. However, I made then the decision to become an Africa changer at the age of 16. I got involved in a lot of civic organizations, got involved in church, I got involved in very small projects, but a lot of the projects that I was involved in, again, was centered around the personality of Nelson Mandela. And as he retired from public life, there was an entire conversation that was being had about how do we start to make an identity for ourselves? How do we create a platform where we can make an indelible change? And that, about a decade later, close to, was then the inspiration for the founding of Mbewu, which is the greatest gift that God has ever given me. It is the greatest cause that I was blessed to have founded, and I'm blessed to have contributed to the advancement of. So, well, that's a journey. Right now, in a different country and pursuing law, still committed to the advancement of Africa. I have a number of projects that we are still running in collaboration with some of our partners on the ground that are about access to justice. Because I'm in the legal space, and you can call it what you can, that I was a lawyer, maybe the bug hit right there much early on in my life. But I moved into law. So I went to university and I studied law, and then founded during my university years organizations such as Mbewu and Tsosang Molao, which empowers communities with the law, promotes access to justice, promotes access to the courts. Because even as a student at one of the most prestigious universities in Africa, I realized that I was joining a class in society where the people who I want to represent the most would never be able to afford my services. And that didn't sit right with me. That from a person who loves people, who loves Black people, who loves Africa, I'm participating in a system that is going to make me an elitist and disenfranchise even more people who look like me from accessing justice. So that's why I started that organization, Tsosang Molao.
Wow. That is super inspiring. And definitely I'm going to leave the links of some of the things that Tshepo here is speaking about, and definitely that video that I watched in 2013, I'm going to drop that link as well. But Tshepo, it's interesting how you say Nelson Mandela obviously was an influence in your leadership journey. The genesis has him right there in that moment of truth, that room where, there was deaf silence, and then everything began to play from there. It brings to mind, and since then, you've spoken about when you were 16 and so on and so forth, and even till now, what you're doing and what you're doing has its core, its root in that passion, that you connected with when you were young. And I can pick one thing from what you said, and that is the fact that you are not too young to lead. Whoever is listening to this, you are not too young to lead. You can lead from, Bible gives us so many examples. You are not too young to lead. Sometimes as young people, we tend to think that, we need permission from people at the top to lead. And that's so wrong. and Tshepo, you have shown us or proved that to us with your story. And so I would love for us to jump into our next question, which is your big leadership lessons. Go ahead and tell us what are the leadership lessons that you have come across or you have concluded that would be beneficial to our listeners.
Where are my notes? I actually have made notes. Yeah, I know you must be prepared. Hey, one of my greatest lessons was to never close your mouth. Open your mouth. When you have a dream, open your mouth. People don't see dreams. People don't see visions. People don't see goals. People see people. And as a young leader, I had to learn to harness, to shape, and to fine-tune my people skills, because it's human beings, it's people who drive a vision and a goal forward. On that, I've got 3 main lessons on that, because it led into how I started Mbewu. I never paid anyone. For about 3 years of Mbewu's existence, I never took a salary. I never paid any of my staff. And we were in 9 African countries. How? People always ask me, how do you have over 150 staff members in the country in about four or five different provinces, and none of these people are earning a salary? How is that possible? How can people take your dream and your vision, but they don't have any financial gratuity coming back to them? And I said, it's a dream. I know people. When you are able to share your passion and share your dream, and the right ears hear it, that passion follows through. Because people see people. A lot of the people who joined the movement didn't join because of some great ideal. They connected with my heart. They connected with the dream that I have because I was so passionate about it. I didn't harbor anything. For me, I just said, let us, I'm paraphrasing you. You wanted 1 billion problems to be converted into solutions. For me, I wanted to partner with young people who would become active agents of change in their communities, in their lifetimes. And I spoke that truth. That was my first lesson. Open your mouth, because people don't see dreams and wishes and visions. People see people. The second lesson that I learned was just start. My first annual report from Mbewu had that tagline as a mantra. Just do one thing. We're trying to change the world, but you can't change the world 100 times. I connect with you with 1 billion Africa, that one problem plus one problem that becomes one solution becomes one solution, and we'll get to that 1 billion. So with me, it is just start. Start with that small thing. Start in your area of influence. When I partnered with the co-founders of Mbewu, they wanted to go all over the world. And I said,